If I had to pick and choose, what is the number one thing I've struggled with for a majority of my life? It would single-handedly be loneliness. Having to travel from state to state, country to country, I never really had the chance to have my own community, have my own friends, like have my own school, and somehow this left me in a completely different dimension than a majority of you. I've had to spend way too much time inside my head right here. I had to think everything, what is the meaning of life, over and over and over, which is likely why I get so deep in these videos now. But to be honest, I actually think a majority of men these days feel lonely for a majority of their life. Maybe you're not actually lonely, okay? Maybe you have a community, maybe you have a friend group. But I can guarantee that there are so many instances in your life that you can think back where you genuinely felt lonely just staying in your room or even after you hang out with people. The main cause of loneliness is not actually not having anybody around you. That's a myth. Loneliness is not being able to be yourself in front of anyone. You can actually be completely alone and still not feel lonely, and the other way around. I actually believe in the world that we live in today as men, loneliness is unavoidable. And I believe it's going to get worse and worse and worse with technology. And I also believe that this is the main reason why so many men these days struggle to summon any form of passion, any form of enthusiasm or energy. They are so stale and weak, they can't just shine. They don't have that soul inside them, it's being taken out. The funny thing about loneliness is, it can absolutely be your biggest weakness. A lot of people fall into haram relationships because their family doesn't listen to them. Or you might start hanging out with a bunch of degenerates because nobody else will want to hang out with you. On the other hand, loneliness can be the biggest superpower you can possibly possess in this world. Truth is, there's something incredibly beautiful about spending time on your own, just alone in your room for such a long time and not having to depend on anyone. You start to create a strong connection with your creator, Allah SWT. The thing is, Allah is always guiding you. There's always that voice. But for most of you, it is so drowned out by all the distractions around you. People telling you things, your job, your work. When you become independent, when you do your prayers, and you increase that sound inside your head, you start living life very, very differently than you are now. Everything in your life just starts to have more and more meaning. Even when you eventually go out into the real world and you eventually start working a corporate job, and you have stupid beta coworkers, you have managers that are trying to make your job your god, basically. You're going to be able to have the character to think, I'm only here to make some money to feed my family, take care of my wife or retire my family, whatever. I believe this mentality alone will actually make you more successful in every realm possible. Firstly, your relationships with women, your wife, your kids will get way, way better. Your mental health gets better. And on top of that, I don't have any statistics to prove this. I 100% believe that you will become more wealthy and more financially successful by being this way. You know why? Because at that point, you will have the mental fortitude to ask for a raise, to go and find a better job with better salary. Whereas if you don't have this, then you're going to become emotionally attached to your workplace, to the position you're in. Guess what? You don't have anything else to depend on. Your job is the only thing that holds you together. That's the only place you feel valued. A couple of months ago, I applied to a job and I got an interview. It was exactly the same as the way I was working. There was like almost no difference, but it was better pay per sale. So I applied for it, and it turns out my current job was somehow affiliated with that one, and so there was all this drama. My boss at the time told them not to hire me. It was a complete scandal, right? And then I come back the next day, and somehow everybody in the office, all my coworkers, found out about the story. But it was changed up a bit. It was like, I tried to get a job in this different place and I got rejected and I had to come back, which is not what happened, but whatever. And then everybody was just nagging me, saying, Boris, why would you look for another job when you've been here for so long? You have so much value here and now you want to leave? What's wrong with you? Like, everybody was saying these things behind my back. I could literally hear it, right? And then I thought, most people don't think like me. Like, why would I have some sort of an emotional connection to this job? I'm literally there to make my sales and get my money, and that's it. But everybody else, astaghfirullah, for a majority of these people, this is their God. And this is what happens when you don't have a strong connection with your Creator. Now you can tell that having a strong iman helps you everywhere, even in the corporate world, in capitalism. The funny thing about this story, many people in my position would have broken mentally. They would have started feeling anxious. They would have dreaded going to work. Maybe they would stop showing up at all to the office. You know why? Because it all comes back to the same thing. Their mind is not ironed by the voice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like my brain is. Imagine that. How can you handle coming in every day and everybody hating you? You need to have some sort of backbone. Because without that, that's your whole life. And now your whole life has turned against you. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I want you to really think about where you're at with your iman. Are you the type of man who would break in that situation?